everybody knows about the shift that kind of happened in late night comedy that sort of coincided with Trump, but I think happened before that. So I think, Trump announced this in 2015, but a lot of these shows changed hands in 2014. Seth Meyers came around in 2014.
Yeah.
But that first year, you could feel him. Again, I kept up with all this at the time, but like you could feel him looking for something to be. Like he didn't know what he was outside of the guy on Saturday Night Live doing 8 jokes a show.
Yeah.
And then, Trump comes along, and then suddenly it's he can do the closer look segments. It's just 15 minutes of him ranting with like a joke thrown in there every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And same thing happened when Colbert took over the Late Show. They were at a time where they were looking for something to be. They didn't know, and like so Seth Meyers, what am I outside of this Weekend Update guy?
Right.
And then Colbert, who am I outside of the character? And they latched on to Donald Trump. Right. I am non-Trump. I am anti-Trump. And then convinced themselves that that's what the American people were feeling.
Howdy, everyone, and welcome back to Moment of Truth, the podcast of American Moment. My name is Nick Solheim, and I'm the CEO of American Moment, and I'm very glad to have you back with us for another fantastic episode this week. Man, I really have that, first line down. I say the same thing every time. Today, we didn't have in our studio. We recorded it at Canon Press out in Moscow, Idaho. We had the great Wade Stotts. This is going to be a very culture-heavy episode. We mainly talked about the state of late-night comedy, stand-up comedy, all things comedy, and some of the we get an optics check from Wade Stotts on the DHS posting on Twitter. It was a really fun conversation, especially if you, like me, really enjoy comedy and reminiscing about the great comedians of the 20th century. We had, I always come back to talking about Norm Macdonald, so of course we do some of that, but it was a very fun episode. So we will go now to late night funny man, Wade Stotts. Wade, thanks so much for coming on Moment of Truth.
It's great to be here.
Dude, I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
This
is going to rock.
Man. I mean, come on.
This is going to be a good time. I should probably look at my watch now. Otherwise, we could be here for 2 hours. I think I have shared a lot of your late night comedy stuff. I've gotten a lot of texts and Twitter DMs over the years that have been like, this guy's hilarious, but who the hell is he? I've never heard of this guy.
I ask myself that all the time.
So we'll talk about all the late night stuff and the state of comedy and all of that. But first, I'd like to hear more about, and our audience would like to hear more about your background, how you ended up here in Moscow, and just generally the story of your life.
Yeah, generally the story of my life.
Yeah.
Well, the most direct way is, I ended up here in Moscow because I watched Doug Wilson videos when I was in high school. So I started out watching, I was a
Who among us?
Yeah. So I was a big John Piper fan in high school, and then just gradually through watching conferences of Doug, ended up watching videos, grabbing books, and things like that. Fast forward to 2019, I was working at Louder with Crowder, and I was there for 2 years. And I think I quoted Doug on a podcast one time. And somebody tweeted about it. Hey, cool to hear Doug Wilson quoted on the show. And then Canon reached out to me and just said hey, glad you like our books. Ended up striking a friendship with some Canon people, and then gradually just got recruited up here.
Yeah.
Which has been great. We've been here since early 2021. So we started here around the time Biden got inaugurated. Very fascinating time
We call that the interregnum.
Yeah, exactly. So I was here for the whole interregnum, and then now for the new era return.
Yeah. You are leaving out a lot of information.
Yeah.
So I'm going to prompt you. How did you end up in sort of this political yet it's sort of like a political satire type.
Sure.
Like, what drew you to that? How
Yeah.
did you end up in that sort of space, both at Louder with Crowder and now like what you're doing here?
I think I was always watching comedy stuff, like when I was in high school. So around the time I was watching John Piper videos and Doug Wilson videos, I was also like getting DVDs of every season of Saturday Night Live that I could get my hands on.
Okay.
Watching those, fascinated by like what worked, what didn't work. Throughout college, I think I watched David Letterman and Conan every day.
Wow.
And was just fascinated by, like, again, what worked, what didn't work, why did it work? I don't know why. I was drawn to the question of how this whole machine kind of happened.
What makes people laugh?
Yeah. And I mean, I watched the Conan O'Brien Can't Stop documentary, which just there was one scene in the Conan O'Brien Can't Stop documentary where they're about to do like jokes at Bonnaroo. They're going to introduce who is it? Anyway, Damian Marley. They're about to introduce Damian Marley, and they're trying to figure out something funny to say about Damian Marley and Nas. And I thought, like, that sounds like paradise. They were sitting in this like trailer, this terrible trailer, sweating, about to go out and like do jokes that nobody would care about or remember. And it seemed like the most rock and roll thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't the being on stage that was the fun thing for me. It was like, what if I could just sit in a sweaty trailer and like come up with jokes that were funny and that nobody's going to appreciate.
Yeah.
And it was fun. So I ended up, just continuing following late night comedy. And throughout that, I mean, everybody knows about the shift that kind of happened in late night comedy that sort of coincided with Trump. But I think happened before that. So I think, Trump announced this in 2015, but a lot of these shows changed hands in 2014.
Yeah.
And so you have guys.
Well, and it started too with a lot of the like, we're making fun of George W. Bush because he's dumb. Like, I think it even goes back earlier than that.
Yeah,
like
the like Jon Stewart stuff.
Are dumb trope.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Jon Stewart era was fascinating. And then also, but I was more of a fan of like the network shows, like the most mainstream stuff. So like, I mean, Conan was on network, and that became a whole saga. But yeah, there was definitely a shift that happened, and I think that like Seth Meyers came around in 2014.
Yeah.
And then
he's super lame.
He
strikes me as
really
super lame.
But that first year, you could feel him. Again, I kept up with all this at the time, but like you could feel him looking for something to be. Like he didn't know what he was outside of the guy on Saturday Night Live doing 8 jokes a show.
Yeah.
And then Trump comes along, and then suddenly it's he can do the closer look segments. So it's just 15 minutes of him ranting with like a joke thrown in there every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened when Colbert took over the Late Show. They were at a time where they were looking for something to be. They didn't know. And like, so Seth Meyers, what am I outside of this Weekend Update guy?
Right.
And then Colbert, who am I outside of the character? And they latched on to Donald Trump. Right. I am non-Trump. I am anti-Trump. And then convinced themselves that that's what the American people were feeling.
Yeah.
So they're in the middle of this like identity crisis, and then latch on to the figure of Donald Trump, and then take the rest of the country with them.
And what was the whole deal with? Again, I followed all of this stuff extremely loosely. So you are
I followed it too closely.
You are the comedic expert, the autist. What happened to Conan?
Yeah, Conan was on late night on NBC for 16 years.
Yeah,
got the job from Jay Leno, and then was on air for 7 months, during which Jay Leno got a show, became his lead-in again. So every night at 10 p.m., Jay Leno had a show, and he was like, all right, this is kind of an uncomfortable situation where I thought I had the Tonight Show, and then Jay Leno is my lead-in again, like he was for 16 years. And then, so gradually they started pushing him later. So they wanted to push him into the next day. So it was going to start Tonight Show started at 11:30 forever. And then they pushed him into, they said like, okay, now you're going to be midnight, and Jay Leno is going to start at 11:30, the time for the Tonight Show.
Dang.
And so he is just like, I'm not going to be the guy who pushes the Tonight Show into the next day, and just quits. So he was there for 7 months, and then had to sign a contract, got a huge like golden parachute deal.
Yeah.
and then was gone there was like one summer where he couldn't be on TV, during which he did a live show.
Am I wrong about this, or is Conan, unlike a lot of the other guys, actually funny?
Conan is brilliant.
Yeah.
So Conan is one of the only guys who's still doing interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So like his travel show,
what is it? Conan
Must Go. Conan O'Brien Must Go is the name of the show.
What was the one it's like Conan O'Brien has a podcast or does a podcast?
Yeah. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Needs a Friend
is his podcast. And it's a very funny show. His travel shows were always like a highlight, and now HBO's picked up doing travel shows for him.
Yeah.
And those are still super funny. And
I think part of what makes him so funny is his laugh.
Yeah.
There's a certain all of this comes back to delivery, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I keep thinking about, this clip, I go back and watch this like once a month. That clip that he has with
Norm?
No.
Okay.
It's the Jim Downey.
Oh yeah.
Who was the writer?
Yeah.
The Jeffrey Epstein.
Epstein. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I would know if something happened with Jeff Epstein. Yeah.
and part of what makes that so funny is Conan's reaction,
100%.
right, and his laugh.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the, despite the fact that he's not the one making the joke,
right?
It is one of the funniest comedic bits I've ever seen in my life.
There's a reason it became a meme. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and Jim Downey and Conan are good like partners because both of those guys were non-political writers.
Yeah.
So like the stuff that Conan became known for and why he got the job is he worked at Saturday Night Live for a couple of years, did Simpsons for a few years, basically like shaped the tone of early Simpsons. And so that's not the guy that you want talking about politics. And he was never like, he recently did an Oxford Union thing where he was talking about like, hey, and he's an anti-Trump guy. So he's like, but if you're losing your own, like he wants people to fight Trump, but he's like, your only weapon is humor. And if you're not funny, then you're not actually making a difference.
If you're putting the ideology first, as opposed to the humor,
right,
then it doesn't work.
Exactly. And so like he embodied that for years and like was mostly silly. So like what he became known for was the kind of weird stuff that was like experimental stuff that was happening at 12:30.
Yeah.
And that's an environment that doesn't exist anymore, really. The kind of like, let's play around, nobody's really watching. Craig Ferguson kind of occupied that same kind of space. But yeah, Conan has always like, people latch on to the Conan travel thing where he went to Haiti. And that was I see as like one of the 3 or 4 cringe things he's ever done. And I understand why people latch onto that. Yeah. But broadly, Conan though has stayed out of being directly political. Which has kept him funny. So like he can travel to Ireland or some random place and just be around the people and enjoy himself. So he's looking for the funny. He's always making himself the butt of the joke. He doesn't like, there's some comedians who take themselves extremely seriously. Like that's the blight of late night television right now is I am a serious person. I am the last bastion of seriousness and good faith in the American system, blah, blah, blah. That's Stephen Colbert, right?
And we're just going to be mean.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it with a smirk. And so therefore it's funny.
Yeah.
And Conan was never that guy. The joke was always on him. If he's traveling to a place that is like, even if like a dump like Haiti, he's always making fun of himself. He's always the target. I'm the weird, like I'm the foreigner who's like here in your place, right?
Right.
And that's like, I like his Haiti special, even though again, there are some like cringe parts of it. But that's the disease of self-seriousness. Like it can't, like comedy can be can be a serious force, but if it takes itself seriously, that's the death of everything. And so like in a time where everybody's taking themselves seriously and I'm an important voice because I have, so many number of followers.
Yeah. Man, that's really loud.
That is really loud.
Must be a big fire.
Yeah. This podcast is fire.
Yeah, this podcast is fire. That's exactly right. In that same vein, I'm just thinking about all of our friends who are going to be listening to this episode who are currently working in DC, and all of this show is normally like very serious policy stuff.
Right,
we're just like shit posting about comedy essentially. But I love to do it. I love to do it.
Conan. Let's do it.
In that sense, is Top Gear a comedy?
This
has been one of my bits for a long time. Is like actually Top Gear was a better comedy show than Saturday Night Live over the last 20 years.
Well, I mean, because it's on TV, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. So the news is an entertainment format.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so you can call it serious business, but like cable news is an entertainment format. And I think that Top Gear recognized, like, these are funny guys, but they recognized this is not a show, an educational show. We can pretend it's an educational thing, like Discovery Channel stuff, but it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And guys who get along, and guys like ragging on each other and having inside jokes
And hitting each other with cars.
Yeah. It's an entertainment format. So like
For men.
yeah, absolutely. So the people who recognize like what we're doing here is playing around, and not the people who take themselves seriously. Like that's like Neil Postman talks about this, where he's generally, people characterize him as being anti-TV, and we're not really in the TV era anymore. But like people characterize him as being anti-TV, but he's just like, no, TV is not serious, and when it pretends to be serious, that's where it goes off the rails.
Interesting.
So like he said the best stuff on TV, like at the time, was like Cheers. So he's like, I like silly garbage stuff. Like, show me the silliest garbage, and I'm gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
But like when something that is entertainment thinks it's not, that's the problem. And so like the fact that even so that applied to, in his mind, even the serious like news magazine shows like 60 Minutes or whatever, 2020, is like, they think they're serious. That's the problem. And that moved even into the stuff that was not supposed to take itself seriously. Yeah. So like the stuff that was, hey, like end of the day, you know, crack open a beer, watch a funny show. That self-seriousness got into everything, including the sitcoms, including everything.
Well, yeah. So it went from, you know, recognizing itself as entertainment to being more like, in 60 Minutes case, as an example, trauma pornography, essentially.
Right.
Like, this is, and by the way, this is going to be a controversial take, but I think that coincides with the shift from relatively regular, casual TV viewers from men to women.
Yeah.
Women are much more attracted by that sort of like, oh my gosh, the world is terrible. Like, I'm thinking about the like the 60 Minutes special they keep talking about with CCOT, the prison in El Salvador, and like, no dude's gonna watch that and be like, wow, like I'm so mad.
Yeah,
like that is primarily going to be you know, going to make women sad. Yeah. Type special.
Well, and the illusion of it being a serious thing is broken every 5 to 6 minutes when a commercial comes on. Like
it sort of breaks the frame.
Yeah. But you've got people taking themselves totally seriously, not acknowledging the fact that they're about to break for a toilet paper commercial.
Right.
And like that
or
happening,
for sports betting.
Or like, that's whatever. More likely. Sports betting and toilet paper. Very much related. But that happening with the news shows, they always took themselves seriously. And then comedy started doing the same thing. There's no kind of place where TV knows, like, this is just entertainment. Let's work hard to make the entertainment as good as it can be.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think that is what makes Fox News, despite all of its boomer tendencies, more widely watched than like CNN? Because they have somebody like Gutfeld and people like that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that was, I mean, David Mamet has made this point. Speaking of boomers who love Fox News, I love David Mamet. Yeah. But he said, like, I like Fox because it's funny.
Yeah. And even when like Secretary Hegseth was on Fox, like he was funny, dude.
It's an entertainment show. Like they like Fox knew that we have a weekend entertainment show where like, or a news, like the fact that CNN doesn't quite understand that it's an entertainment thing, that it is there just to entertain people. But that Fox knows, like, get Pete Hegseth and like spray champagne at him. Like, that's entertainment. And same with like Will Cain recognizes, like, we're on a TV show and this is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. So like they deal with serious topics, but like recognizing we're here to let people pass the time. And even enragement is a kind of entertainment. And,
that's true.
And so like if they know what they're doing, then that makes it so much easier and so much better. But yeah, I like Fox.
Was
very pro Fox guy.
Okay, boomer.
I'm a patriot, not a pinhead. Okay, so watch out, dude. Watch out.
Was I gather that once upon a time, Saturday Night Live was actually good.
Yeah, you hear rumors about this?
Yeah, say more.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There was a time where it was good. And I think that there have been times, plural, believe me, trust me on this one, that it was good. And I think that it was the times when it didn't take itself seriously. So it recognized like people like Jim Downey. Like my dream is at some level that we would be able to make sketches like Jim Downey sketches or like Jack Handy sketches.
Yeah.
So like Jack Handy sketches, Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, and did a lot of stuff with like had Phil Hartman star in a lot of his stuff. But Deep Thoughts, right? That's Jack Handy. Jim Downey wrote a sketch called Change Bank that I think is still one of the great Saturday Night Live sketches of all time. If anybody hasn't seen Change Bank, everybody go watch Change Bank. But it's silly, funny, it's not trying to be anti the president or pro the president. Even Jim Downey's sketches, like Jim Downey is kind of a sort of National Review Republican.
Yeah.
And
he's a Republican? I didn't even know.
Yeah, yeah. And so
you're telling me now for the first time.
But he would show up on like Dennis Miller's show once in a while when he did radio. But and I think did O'Reilly a couple of times maybe. I'm making that up. But Downey is just very funny. And so like he would write, he was known for as the guy who you give him the cold opens and they're going to be funny.
When he was the writer for Norm Macdonald.
Yes.
Too, right?
He was head of Weekend Update when Norm was there. Everybody looks back and goes like, hey, remember when they could make fun of Obama and Hillary? Remember, like the famous Obama Hillary sketch where it's like Hillary trying to undermine Obama and like, or everybody like serving up easy questions for Obama and like trying to get Hillary out of the race. Like it's obviously rigged by the media. That's a Jim Downey sketch.
Yeah.
Remember when they could make fun of both sides? It's not that Saturday Night Live had this ability. It's that Jim Downey had this ability.
Right. And he was an institution.
Yeah. He was there. Like he moved in to Saturday Night Live when Bill Murray did. And wrote there sporadically until the 2010s. So, and like that voice is not something that you have there anymore in the same way. And I think that like their attempt to try to get Shane Gillis on a few years ago was an attempt to kind of say like, hey, we have a place.
That was literally 1 year ago, I think.
Oh, I mean like when they were trying to get him as a cast member.
Oh, right.
So I think they were trying to be like, hey, there's a place for 2004 bro culture here at Saturday Night Live. And I love Shane, so it's not like I'm not.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that.
Yeah,
yeah.
So they've tried to make themselves not that anymore. I think the Nate Bargatze play is a similar kind of thing where like middle Americans can watch our show, it not just be a screech fest. And there've been always people trying to be interesting, but the stuff that rises to the news and the stuff that becomes a story, like I think that there are still talented writers there. I think they come up with good sketches sometimes, once in a while. But yeah, it's a fascinating place because I mean it's like you say personnel is policy, right? Like everybody says that. That's Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
So you get like the fact that Saturday Night Live is bad at times, it's because the people who work there. Yeah. It's not that like Lorne suddenly started hating Trump. It's just like the people he had to hire were all mad about Trump. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen. And this is not to wash Lorne Michaels' hands of anything, but it's a personnel is policy even in like stupid comedy shows.
Yeah. The Norm Macdonald era. I can't believe we're about to do this. This will be the second time we've had an extended conversation about Norm Macdonald on the Moment of Truth podcast in the last 12 months.
Yeah. I missed the first one. I need to go watch this.
I'll send it to you.
Please.
It was with some guy I met on Twitter. It was awesome. It was Daniel Tenrero. That's who it was.
We'll watch.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But I think part of what made part of the really interesting thing about Norm, thinking about his contributions to comedy after the fact is, and again, I'm we're relatively young, so a lot of this is before, might be before our time, or when we were really young, but it's sort of like that kind of transgressive, I'm mainly thinking about the O.J. Simpson bits.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Like him and Jim Downey just every night working something in there about how OJ definitely did it. You know?
Well, and finding the thing that people wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can't say that in polite company. but just being like, oh, it obviously happened. I'm not gonna pretend it didn't.
So do you think that a lot of funny people took the wrong lesson from that, right? Like,
Okay.
like we specifically on the left. So again, coming back to what I was saying earlier about this, they were like, oh, okay, it makes people laugh to be transgressive.
Okay.
So I will come up with the ideological position first.
Sure.
And then after the fact, come back and try to make it funny.
Mhm.
Whereas I think Norm and Jim Downey's bit was the reverse.
Okay.
Like, we're going to do the funny thing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it'll actually be funny. And
Right.
like,
Well, and the fact that most of the jokes are simple statements of truth,
yeah.
but like in a joke format is great.
I'm trying
But,
to
like,
remember like what the funniest ones were. Like,
Well,
what's the
I
one
mean,
that sticks out in your mind?
there's the like right after the acquittal, like Norm opened the session with like turning straight, and then like O.J. Simpson picture behind him, and he says, "Murder is legal in the state of California tonight.
Yeah.
Murder is legal in the state of California." But I mean, just the whole like my lucky stabbing hat, like there's just a ton of those great moments. But yeah, like those guys were just having fun, and then recognized later on, like it's so is it transgressive? Like they got fired.
Yeah.
And Norm, like,
and it was specifically over the if I'm remembering correctly, it was specifically because of the OJ stuff, not because they were transgressive in general.
Right. Yeah. Well, Don Ohlmeyer was friends with OJ.
Yep.
Who was the president of NBC at the time.
Yeah.
And so he was not just kicking the like. It's recognizing that he actually was in a transgressive position. Like, I'm fighting the power directly over me, and also this general cultural don't say that kind of thing. Whereas now it's like, do you think the head of NBC is like sitting there going like, oh, don't talk about Trump, please don't. Yeah. And then everybody else is just like, you know what, we're going to anyway. That's not what's happening.
Yeah. Everybody's on the same page now.
Yeah. So yeah, Norm was the guy who looked for funny first and would sacrifice laughs or sacrifice audience reaction for funny, because he knew funny. He wasn't trying to figure out what they thought was funny necessarily, but he knew that there was an audience out there past the crowd that was watching the TV, and that's who he was talking to. He's like, tell the truth, be funny, and state the obvious truth that you can't say.
But even if that wasn't the case, like, I think the thing that's really impressive about Norm, watching all of his bits after the fact and reading, I read his book recently, like 6 months ago, his memoir or whatever. And the thing that's really striking to me is, regardless of whether or not people were laughing in the live studio audience or if they were laughing at home, he sort of had this attitude of like, I don't care, because comedy is an art form. And I'm practicing art. Yeah.
Well, and also, like, I'm not gonna tiptoe around something that's obviously stupid. Yeah. Like you can see this. It's the same, like upsetting Don Ohlmeyer about O.J. Simpson is the same instinct that had him like make fun of the Carrot Top movie that was about to come out. Right. So it's everybody in that studio audience, Conan, everybody in the audience where he's talking to Conan about this girl comes on to promote her movie with Carrot Top. And everybody knows, like, this is probably going to stink, right? Like, this is going to be a terrible movie. But he's the only person who will say that. Yeah. And will say that in a place where she's here to promote that movie. Yeah. And this, like, the whole, like, the studio is paying tons of money to get this thing promoted. And he's just like, isn't this going to be bad? Like, and it's great. Like, the chairman of the board was the name of the movie. And Norm just, like, explodes every illusion that anybody has that we're just doing a polite little appearance. Yeah. So he recognizes all the social rules and sees them clearly, but also sees like the thing nobody's going to touch.
Yeah. Well, and there's something about like the deadpan style too. Like he just says it and then he's just like, looks at you. Like, dead serious. Just waits for you to laugh. I mean, it was, he's really something special.
But he also knew it was funny. Like he talked about when people would come to Saturday Night Live and would look at a sketch and just look at it and go, yeah, no, that works. That's funny. Yeah. And you go like, why didn't you laugh at it? Yeah. Like, it's a funny, isn't our job like to be funny? Like not just like analyze the sort of rules of comedy and be like, yes, this will make people laugh in like a
It's
sort
like
of
a
scientific
formula.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, aren't we like, there's a guttural, like real human, like punch somebody exactly where they're like, where nobody will, that he recognized that everybody else was just following little formulas.
Yeah. I'm remembering that in this is now turned into a meme, but when he was doing the riding around in the car with Seinfeld,
Yeah.
and who were they talking about? Was it Jeffrey Epstein that they were talking about? And
No, I
he
think it was
goes,
Cosby.
"Oh, it was Bill Cosby. That's
Yeah.
right." And he says, "Oh yeah, I thought the problem with him was the raping."
Yeah. The worst
then he
part is
just,
the
like-
hypocrisy. Yeah. It was he said, Patton Oswalt told me, the worst part was the hypocrisy. Yeah.
And he like doesn't even like Seinfeld loses it, but he's just like,
Yeah. Explaining it like, no, it's brilliant.
how did his because there was definitely a change in his comedy, I think both in the style, in its transgressiveness after he left Saturday Night Live. I think part of that is because he got fat. I instantly think you're 10 times funnier if you're fat. I think this is just like
Yeah.
a real.
Yeah. One day I'm excited about getting there.
Yeah. I'm just like
I will
fat
build
and
up,
I'm
yeah.
funnier now.
Yeah.
But like how would you describe like that
Yeah.
that change in style?
I mean, I think it had a lot to do with his getting diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
So he was on Saturday Night Live the first time he had a big cancer scare.
Yeah.
And I think was a guy who recognized also like, I'm going to do my job. My job is like a nightclub comic. That's how he always described himself. But it got a lot darker.
Yeah.
And so like his me doing stand-up special. Yeah. I mean, he would joke about like OJ Simpson's murder, or just murder of these, these other people, but like him talking about death constantly.
Yeah.
And his Uncle Bert, who was in the hospital, like making up a character. It's him. It's like dying of bowel cancer. It's exactly like his Uncle Bert was this character that he created who was dying of bowel cancer, but it was him.
Yeah.
And he was telling jokes that he probably thought of in a hospital bed.
Yeah. Didn't he call it ass cancer?
Yeah.
Isn't that what he
Yeah.
said in the?
Yeah. So like, and that's, so he's dealing with it in the only way he knows how. But also like hiding it, not being like trying to do it in a like sort of stoic American, he was Canadian, but like sort of an old Scottish guy, like die quietly, but also like do your job. And no, it got really dark and people get really uncomfortable watching his stuff. And I think that there's a certain amount of that now we realize he earned.
Right.
Like he can go there. And there are other people who just recognize like, oh, let's go dark because that's what gets people uncomfortable. And his darkness was authentic. It was real. It was like he lived in this kind of secret darkness that nobody really knew about. But then later on we realized, no, there was a lot of more ethos there than just say the most absurd thing. Like,
right.
And I think Louis C.K. is very talented, but Louis C.K. doesn't earn the darkness in the way that Norm did.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, I've watched a couple of those specials a couple of years ago, and it's just like, it's like just raunchy or dark, like just because it gets the shock value.
Right.
Right. But there's like, you look behind all the smoke and mirrors and it's just like, there's nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No meaning to it at all.
This is something that I thought a lot about, specifically after I read his memoir or his autobiography or whatever he called it. Like, it was so crazy how much he kept to himself. Like the mental fortitude it takes to tell essentially nobody you're dying of cancer.
Right.
You've gambled all your money away. Yeah. Like, it's built different.
But it's basically literally the John Wayne story. Yeah. So like John Wayne dying of stomach cancer. Yeah. Does a movie called The Shootist about a old gunfighter who's dying of stomach cancer. Doesn't tell anybody on set that he is dying of the same disease as the guy in the script. And then very shortly after he makes this movie, dies.
Wow. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
So it's like that's Norm Macdonald and John Wayne have very similar kind of trajectories. And the fact that he was part of this thing, but also was like just a very funny comic and not a guy that people looked up to as like being the hero of the American West.
Yeah.
He's that guy, but also like was his own. It was in like the king of his own domain in the same way John Wayne was.
Yeah. Trying to think about how to frame this. I want to talk about Dave Chappelle for a minute. I think that Dave Chappelle is funny.
Yeah.
I think he triangulates politically a lot more than somebody like Norm. And I think
explain what you mean by triangulates.
And we'll talk more about this, but he does when was it? Was it 2019 or 2021? He did like the special making fun of trannies. Like essentially that was like the whole that was the whole purpose of the show. And then the next, I think, 2 specials were like, including this one that came out like a month or 2 ago, were just like, so he was like, other people took that, too far. And this guy Trump is like evil, and doing all of that stuff. He is also extremely transgressive, and is very funny. But I watched a couple of years ago. I watched a special. Neil Brennan, that's what his name was. Who was his writer?
Right.
When they were doing,
he worked on the show. Chappelle show.
On the Chappelle show, and like, I don't know what your opinion is, but I didn't think Neil was very funny.
Sure.
Like that was my personal opinion. And his comedy style was a lot more ideological, and it was extremely emotionally vulgar too, if that makes sense, because he has all these struggles with, I think it was like bipolar disorder or something like that. And
he has a whole podcast called Blocks that's like a psychoanalysis podcast, basically.
Okay.
Where he just
it was like, so like you're watching this special, and I think he's done another one recently that I haven't watched, but his like first big special on Netflix a couple years ago. I watched and I was like, this is, and again, I keep coming back to like profane, vulgar, but not in the way we use those words now. It's just like, we shouldn't know this much about your state of mind. Like that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't even know what my question is here.
Right.
I'm just rambling about this at this point. But like Chappelle is a very different. He and Norm share some similarities, but I think he takes it in a very different direction. I don't know. What say you?
I think it's self-obsession. So like being like, it's me. So like the subject of the comedy isn't like Jerry Seinfeld, I think is one of the greatest of all time. Nobody would disagree. So, but like, it was all like, hey, look at this over here. And like, or little thought patterns that you may have had, but that he takes to the, like, and even watching the show, it's like, or watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, it's like, take a little like thought that you would have had, like, I wish I could do this. And then all this wish fulfillment afterwards. Like, I'm dealing with all this. It's like, it's very much observational, but not self-obsessed. Right. And Neil Brennan absolutely is self-obsessed.
Yeah.
And I think
he's lost in the recesses of his own mind.
Yeah. And I think like Chappelle doing a special where he's talking about people who took his jokes the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, the chief kind of cautionary tale for stand-up comics is Lenny Bruce. All right. So Lenny Bruce gets arrested for like profanity laws. Right. And I think he should have been arrested. I think Lenny Bruce was a bad guy, but he's the hero everybody has. So like people think of Lenny Bruce as being like, oh, he was the real thing. But then afterward, every one of his appearances became like where he's reading court documents about his profanity trials. And everybody just kind of sours on it. It's like, I used to enjoy your stuff, and I never enjoyed their stuff, but like people who did are not enjoying it anymore because it's not Lenny Bruce making funny observations, even if they're vulgar and gross, but it's him. And I think that's like the fact that Colbert is that same way. Like any comic where it's just like self-obsession in a positive, like I am actually a good person and I'm being persecuted. Is a problem. But like I just talked about, like Conan talks about himself but sees himself
it's
as
self-deprecating.
sees himself as like, oh, I'm the idiot here. I don't really know what I'm doing. And people think of the wrong way to read Conan is like, oh, he went to Harvard. I went to Harvard and wrote a dissertation about Faulkner. Wow, it's a really smart guy. But his favorite stuff is silly, like all the examples I'm thinking of are not great, but like silly stuff. Like that's his legacy is silliness. He likes taking silliness and putting a lot of money behind it. And pushing hard in that direction. So his view of himself comes out in his comedy. But if your view of yourself, if like Dave Chappelle sees himself as like just a kind, if Dave Chappelle is a kind of truth teller who walks in and talks about the thing that nobody's going to say, like, hey, this is actually a guy dressed up as a lady, right? That's some parallel of observation out here. Nobody's touching this, but I'll touch it. Yeah. And then like everything turns in on itself. Lenny Bruce reading court documents.
Well, and there's a certain sense in which everything is better. And I think this applies not just to comedy, but to almost every part of human life when you are insurgent, right?
Yeah.
So when you're doing the Chappelle show early on,
right,
and it's like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
You know, that's when you're going to be at your best and your funniest. And when you make all of this money and influence and get all these friends, it becomes, and some people I think have pulled it off. Like I think Conan's a good example of this, but or a good example of an edge case on this. But it's very hard to maintain in your mind that insurgent attitude.
Right.
Like, I don't care what you think of me. I'm gonna.
So Conan, like the fact that he came on at 12:30, which is a time slot nobody really cared about, except for the fact that he was replacing David Letterman. But even David Letterman was also like came on after Johnny Carson. Yeah. So you got Johnny Carson, and then Letterman had this weird little thing where he could play around and gather his odd like audience. Conan came in, gathered his weird audience that was a very different kind of show. Same with Craig Ferguson. They could play around. And when you're not trying to just play around and gather your audience, but what you're trying to do is gather the mass internet audience, then like it's not even audience capture. It's like potential audience capture. Like what's going to get these people who aren't watching my show to watch my show? Yeah. It just hollows out anything that you wanted to try. Right. And I think that like trusting the reason that people like The Simpsons, I love The Simpsons. The reason people like the early Simpsons is that it was a bunch of comedy writers trying to make each other laugh. Yeah. Not trying to, and also like their sensibilities were like, it was a bunch of Harvard grads, but also they liked it appealed to both ends of the bell curve. Right. And so it was just this show that somehow got to appeal to all of that, but it wasn't trying to prove some political point, mainly because it took them 9 months to make an episode. So, right. So like they
became a lot. That's a much harder moving target.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like they once in a while would make fun of like Bush Senior, but it was like a general make fun of Bush Senior episode and not like some particular news story that worked its way in. But yeah, like when they had a chance to play and it didn't make sense to a lot of people. I mean, that's Seinfeld. It's the story of Seinfeld. It's the story of The Simpsons. The Simpsons' initial run, I think, was like 12 episode first season. Seinfeld just basically got picked up and they made like 6 episodes in the first season, but originally it was like a 3 episode pickup. But they just like, these were the edge cases that became the center of American comedy. Yeah. And there's no real place for anybody to play around like that anymore on TV because they're trying to hold on for dear life for the audience that they're losing very quickly. Yeah. So TV is not the playground. There's no like little corner of TV where you can play around. It's all like be as mainstream as possible because we can't lose anybody else. Right. We're already losing people. Why would we lose somebody else?
Yeah. And there's this kind of segment of comedians that have come out now. I think it was particularly prevalent in like the 2010s that we're trying to dumb down comedy a lot, like bring it down to the lowest common denominator. And by the way, like this kind of comedy, I still find somewhat enjoyable.
Sure. What are some examples of like?
Yeah. So the biggest example I can think of is like Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
Like I'm joking about being fat and eating a lot, being really white, Catholic, and having a lot of kids. Like,
Great. Yeah.
like that, and that's fine for like
Mhm.
I'm not even gonna finish the special tonight. I'll watch like 20 minutes of
Sure.
it and then
Right.
I'll go to bed. But it does not strike me as an art form
Sure.
in the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, the Gaffigan, I think that a great example of like what you can do and be mainstream is
Yeah.
Brian Regan. So like,
Never watched any of.
really?
stuff.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, Brian
Send me
Regan.
some stuff.
Yeah. So Brian Regan, like squeaky clean. However, very funny. Norm said like best stand-up working.
Really?
He was like better than me. Like that guy
Wow.
knows what he's doing. But he was a clean comic, not because he was like, I'm gonna be squeaky clean, but that was what made him laugh. And he worked his way up through the club system. And so like he was trying to make audiences laugh that had just laughed at filthy stuff, but wanted to make people not notice like the drop off.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's not gonna be a quality drop off. It's just that like my stuff's gonna be I think Brian Regan is head and shoulders above Jim Gaffigan. I think Gaffigan's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Brian Regan is an example of a guy who like earned his stripes, is very funny. His like there are 3 or 4 specials in a row that like the epitome of hyperbole, the epitome of hyperbole is how I pronounce it. That's a great special. And yeah, I highly recommend. I'm very surprised that you haven't listened to Brian Regan.
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience out there is going like, Nick, what are you doing?
Yeah, I got to watch it.
But like the older Brian Regan, the Comedy Central era of Brian Regan. But that's kind of a leftover an era where stand-up itself was shaped mostly by trying to get on the Tonight Show. And so the Tonight Show, you did a 5-minute spot. And so everybody was trying to get their act down to like the best 5 minutes. And their best 5 minutes had to be airable on the public airwaves.
Mm.
And so clean comedy was what everybody was, it was either clean or like sort of double entendre, you know, kind
Clean.
of laden.
Yeah.
So it could, if you could air it on Johnny Carson's show. And so that's the era that Seinfeld came up in. I think even Brian Regan did Carson's spot. But now the way that you get noticed for comedy is not having this perfectly built 5 minutes, but is like crowd work clips. And it's usually like vulgar crowd work clips.
I hate that stuff.
I hate it too.
Yeah.
But like
I get all those like Instagram reels.
Yeah,
It's
everybody
so
does.
bad.
Yeah. But the kind of art form of like getting together, making like distilling it down. Jerry Seinfeld at the end of when he's basically sort of stopped doing stand-up at the level that he was doing it before, collected all of his jokes in one book. And the fact that he had distilled his whole career down to like this material. And it's the kind of material like his bit on Halloween got turned into a kid's book. Like it's
Wow.
that level of clean. Well, I have a copy of it at home and my kids think it's very funny. But the fact that you could be at the top of your game in stand-up comedy because of the format, because of the incentive structure, was built for mass appeal, but also like can make people a little uncomfortable and make people get on
Right.
board.
We are now just getting into the territory where I'm just getting your takes on every comedian, so I'm just gonna keep going. I was gonna go to the Shane Gillis stuff, but then I remembered that Bo Burnham exists,
Yeah.
which is easy to forget
Mhm.
because he only does something every like
Right.
8 years.
Yeah.
I think the like musical comedy stuff
Mhm.
is actually a really interesting
Yeah.
play. Like
Mhm.
And
And Bo Burnham's a talented musician.
is a very talented
So it's not
musician.
like Jimmy Fallon level, like sing a song about a troll doll kind
Yeah.
of comedy. But like very talented, knows what he's doing. And the comedy works too.
Yeah, so like the Inside
Mhm.
special that
Yeah.
he did on Netflix, where
Mhm.
it's like, I mean, it's a critique of he's sort of an equal opportunity offender,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
he's like critiquing all of us having to stay inside and what that does to our mental state and
Mhm.
all of that. But then he's also doing like, I'm criticizing white women on Instagram.
Sure.
Like I'm like
Yeah.
doing all of this stuff. And then talking about his own, like he's got huge, it's like anxiety issues, right?
Yeah.
Like he would have like panic attacks
Mhm.
on stage, and that's why he stepped away from comedy for a long time. I don't know. What's your read on all that? I mean, I think he's super liberal.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a nihilist. Like he doesn't love anything or think that anything's worth preserving in the world.
Well, and he is also one of these, like you were talking about earlier. He's extremely inwardly focused.
Yeah.
Like navel gazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think is also like the stuff that goes forward is his social critique, and it's like it actually is the level at which you can relate to him.
Yeah.
So the like it's very well formatted. He's a guy who doesn't just ramble on stage.
Yeah.
Like you can't imagine him like just being like, what's my next thing? It's like everything's scripted out really heavily. And I think it's masterfully done. It just like by the end you feel like gross and a little empty.
Yeah. Totally.
And
I've watched all of his specials a few times. Like I've gone back.
I think he's brilliant. Yeah.
Watched them.
Yeah.
But at the end, you're like, it's sort of like I always tell this thing to my wife. I hate having soup for dinner because you're always hungry in like 2 hours. You know, it sort of feels like the same way when you watch Bo Burnham.
Right.
It's like
Bo Burnham though is like scraping your insides for all of your nutrition. He's not even giving you. It's like, did you eat something? Well, that sucks. Everything you like sucks. And a lot of times he's right.
Yeah.
Like, but I think that there's, I draw a distinction. I mean, I've been talking about The Simpsons a lot, but I draw a distinction between like the sort of early postmodernism of The Simpsons, and then like the late postmodernism of Family Guy.
Yeah.
So Simpsons, if you watch those early seasons, like seasons 3 to 7, there's a heart to it that I think is a result of James Brooks being involved, where he was like, at bottom, this is a show about a family. And they're like sweet, like really sweet scripted moments that are all like, again, it's a stupid comedy show, but like this is about a dad who's like trying his best. And
he's really dumb.
He's really dumb.
Like,
dumb. Like, and that's relatable, but also like, I think John Swartzwelder, who's one of my comedy heroes, basically created the Homer Simpson character as we know it, and just said like, write him as a dog that can talk.
That's interesting.
But at bottom, he loves his family in the same way like a dog would.
Is this same thing true for? We were a King of the Hill household.
Yeah, I love King of the Hill.
Yeah, I think sort of a similar concept.
Yeah,
like, dad's trying his best.
100%.
Propane salesman.
And like for all my, I really like Greg Daniels, Mike Judge that's King of the Hill. Greg Daniels goes on to do The Office, which for all of the flack that I personally could give it, is a great comedy show that does have some heart that makes sense. Yeah. And the center of the heart is Michael Scott, not the Jim and Pam romance. The Jim and Pam romance at some level like annoys me. I don't like that part of the show.
Yeah, total side plot.
Yeah. But Michael Scott being like a genuine person who like might actually be, is he a genius? Is he like an idiot? Like, but we empathize, like we feel for him. We sort of feel like we know that guy, and he's not just an oaf. Whereas, and like Homer Simpson became the caricature of, just oaf dad on TV, but he's actually, there's a genuine affection that he has for his family that doesn't show up in something like Family Guy, where it's just a joke machine.
Yeah. And a vulgar one at that.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And then that goes into like Rick and Morty and stuff like that.
But I think like what's missing from the Burnham thing is like genuine human affection that is also relatable. So like I can relate to Bo Burnham on a like, a bunch of stuff that we like, a bunch of stuff should be torn down. It's all like, there's a bunch of stupid stuff about the world, but there's no kernel at the end. It's like, but at least we can have this at the end. Whereas it seems like Simpsons has some kind, even if it's fuzzy and gooey and whatever, it's relatable at some level. Like, like maybe if it were just rag on Homer the whole time, then you wouldn't, that's not a person,
Right.
It's a cartoon character of a person, but like the fact that this yellow cartoon character feels like a person is like they did it. Like that's an art form. Like you made Homer Simpson a sympathetic character who like really wants to let his youngest daughter know that he loves her.
Yeah.
There's a whole episode about like he does this job and then like he changes I forget what the exact setup is, but there's a scene where the company puts up a sign that says like, you're going to be here for the rest of your life. And it's something like that. And then he changes the lettering of it and be like, do it for her. Right. Yeah. This little like baby.
I've seen that.
Yeah. And so it's like, that's a genuine, like heartfelt dad-daughter thing.
And every dad with a daughter thinks about that. I think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So like, I think that's something that is missing in Bo Burnham.
Dude.
Though I love Bo Burnham, like I think
Yeah.
he's a brilliant guy. But knowing that, hey, there is something real that we do want to keep going. But when we poke holes in even that, the fact that the family is in such tatters right now, we have to affirm at some level that, like, no, there's good stuff that can happen there.
Yeah.
And when you have, my suspicion is that the people who can write something like The Simpsons, where Homer is an oaf, but also like is a real person.
He's not a two-dimensional
oaf.
Yeah.
They might, my suspicion is that they either have had personal experience of a dad who was kind of like that. It was like, it's a real person back there. Or people who just think of their dad as being like purely a figure for me to make fun of.
Yeah.
So I think James L. Brooks, excuse me, Mr. Brooks, was a big factor in that, in making The Simpsons not just a joke machine. And I think people took the wrong lesson from The Simpsons. And if you watch Simpsons now or watch Family Guy, that's The Simpsons
It's
without
totally
heart.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shane Gillis.
Yeah.
Really funny.
Yeah. 100%.
Very,
Mhm.
very talented.
Right.
There are a couple different directions we could go with this. I mean, he does sort of signal, I think, a return to it's acceptable to make fun of anything again.
Yeah.
Right? This is kind of like the pushback of the Biden years. Is
Right.
like, no, we can make fun of that now. I also think it's interesting that, and this is the second part of where I want to go, that he had those years under the Biden era where he was doing some right-wing coded stuff.
Yeah.
The president is inaugurated. We actually start to wield power. And he goes, whoa, not like that.
Right, yeah.
You
I'm
know what I
Bud Light
mean?
guy now, yeah.
And then you have the what's that guy from Louisiana's name? The cokehead.
Theo Von.
Yeah, Theo Von, who's like, yo, you guys using my clips is gonna get me killed.
Right.
Like you sort of have this pushback. So that's the second part of where I want to go. But
Yeah.
do your first like analysis of Shane Gillis,
Yeah.
his comedy style.
I think Shane is a guy who was built for like 2004 to 2007 in the comedy scene. So like he would be ascending the ranks of Comedy Central and be doing album after album for them, but like born at the wrong time kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so therefore automatically gets the, like, people remember, oh yeah, our whole culture used to be built around like dudes in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Like the Paul Scalis, the vulgar wave thing. Like, it's like Shane Gillis is a creature of that period where, oh yeah, that used to be mainstream culture. And now it's a guy I found on a podcast. And then I think that broadly mainstream culture is trying to figure out how they can they incorporate what they were during the vulgar wave, the Paul Scalis vulgar wave, into what they're already doing. And I think that's the slow play now, is figuring out, where does this fit? Can we do this in a safe way where we can keep everybody that we've kept? So I think it's mainly a like the mainstream play. I don't mean Shane himself, but I think that the people who want Shane on their stuff is an attempt to keep people who would otherwise leave.
Yeah.
These platforms.
Yeah.
Broadly.
So Shane, Joe Rogan, to a certain extent, like a lot of these guys have sort of, now that conservatives are in power, have kind of started to push back on a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Say things like, this is going to get us all into a lot of trouble later. There's sort of this conversation at the same time happening about this in DC, where you have like the big thing as we're recording this right now is like the penguin memes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All of that stuff, but also the the memeing of the DHS Twitter account, like making light of deportations. I mean, they're I've heard some people privately say, like, I'm really worried that this is, like, not only may we meme ourselves into losing
Mhm.
an election, but we also may meme ourselves straight to jail
Right.
for, like, joking about it.
Mhm.
What say you?
I think that it might be underestimating the um, sort of confidence that does give the average voter.
Mm.
So, like, I think that there are people who would feel bad for rooting for deportations if they didn't see like Top Gun videos of deportations, or like, joke
Yeah.
videos about closing time,
Yeah.
or the penguin memes. Like,
Yeah.
I think that there are people who, like, that actually does galvanize. I think there's a yes. So you're obviously trying to balance two different things, but there's the people who are the true believers of MAGA want this stuff, and if you don't give it to them, then they're gonna think like, oh well, I guess they get in power and they just become squishes.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, we don't want to show, like, yeah, they all held up the mass deportations now signs at the rallies, but we don't want to show them the mass deportations because that might upset the left.
Right.
So I think that broadly, it's just recommending, or it's understanding the stakes right now. It's like, I'm not going to bring any leftists onto Team Trump.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to like frame my marketing for those people, and I'm not really even going to frame my marketing for the edges of MAGA. And so I don't know, we'll see if it works, but I think the thinking behind it makes some level of sense. It's like, we're going to have a gravitational pull that is like, yes, it is ridiculous that we have this many illegals in our country. It is like the fraud that's happening is ridiculous. And we are going to treat these people not as wholly victims, but as objects of ridicule.
Yeah.
Like the fact, I think that it actually did bother people that when, I mean, we could talk about the release of the lady who organized the church protest, but like when she was arrested, that I think it was the DHS account did like an AI version of her like crying.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it was like, oh, you're messing with the facts. Like that was the objection that people gave,
Right.
but it was just not treating her as a priest, or not treating her as like a holy object.
Yeah.
But just being like, no, she is ridiculous. We're going to make fun of her, and being able to say both things at the same time, dangerous and ridiculous. I think as a plan truster generally, I do like the direction, because you have to do both of those things. You can't just be self-serious all the time, right? So like, these people are dangerous. They're like, we're arresting child predators. Like this is a real side of it. And if you just think about that, then you'll go insane, and you'll like actually be galvanized in a bad way. Like you could become a violent, crazy person if you just think about how bad it is, without at the same time being like, this is ridiculous.
Those
isn't it
people are
funny?
silly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
They're silly, and isn't it funny what we're doing to them?
Yeah.
Like, I think that helps. It helps people like have some kind of psychological awareness of like, yes, it is important what we're doing. It actually may turn the country around and might be the beginning of really good stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's just self-seriousness meeting with self-seriousness, I think that's the problem. Like coming through and being like, that's not funny. We've learned, like, I thought we were the other team. Like I thought
Right.
that was the and like, maybe it isn't funny. Maybe they're doing a bad job.
Yeah.
But and that's worth talking about. But it's not like attempting a joke is not a is not disqualifying.
To play devil's advocate on that a little bit, one of the critiques that I've heard of this sort of thing is like even the penguin meme is like a great example of this. Like, this is such a niche. Like, I actually had to ask my chief of staff, who was younger than me. I was like, yo, this is funny. What does it mean? Can you explain it to me? You're young. You tell me. There has sort of been this critique that like everything that you're saying is true, but that is playing to the ideological elite within the confines of X.com.
Yeah.
Right. So you see we post these videos, and in the same day, it's like 60, 70, 80,000 likes. And you're like, dude, that's a lot. But then you put that within the context of the fact that this is a country of, 380 million people or whatever. And it's like, are we just catering to, a particular elite that has some sort of stake in this? And is that valuable?
Yeah. Well, if that's all we were doing, I think that would be a problem. If it was just like meme stuff.
If it was just in-group signaling,
right,
that would be bad.
I think that'd be a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's all that's happening. I think that most, like, I'm a big back to the comedy thing. I think I'm a big Mystery Science Theater fan. Love Mystery Science Theater
3000.
3000.
Yeah,
yes.
dude. You guys should do that here.
Okay.
You should do we'll do the silhouette of the back of your head and
it's
everything.
decided.
I doubt anybody that listens to this podcast has ever seen Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Okay.
My parents loved it.
Of course.
I've
Gen
seen
X parents.
yeah.
Okay.
I've seen almost all of them.
Okay.
Like,
love that show. But the magic of that show is you laugh at references you don't get.
100%. Yes.
Like how
I was watching that when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I still
you
still
just
laugh.
know that like it's funny.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but my parents are laughing harder than I am. I better get there.
Yeah.
Right. So like I one day I'll be able to appreciate this joke as much as my parents are.
Yeah.
And that's,
dude, I see that in my own life. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
the peril of like reference humor, but the peril, it actually makes people, it makes people feel like, you know me. Right.
Right.
So like, how did you get inside my head to like, there's one particular joke that's like an Ed Grimley reference, and nobody knows who Ed Grimley is, but you should. In one episode of Mystery Science Theater that I've laughed about for days thinking about. And nobody cared. Like I could try to explain it to you why it's so funny, but unless you like knew like Saturday Night Live in the early 80s or SCTV, the Canadian comedy show from the early 80s, like you wouldn't think that was very funny, but you might laugh at it because of the rhythm of the joke. Yeah. So I think that playing to people doesn't necessarily, you just move on. If you either you get it or you don't, and you just scroll past, be like, it doesn't take up a lot of space in people's minds, but people might catch the echoes. Like Doug talks about this in his writing book, where like you can make little references to a book that, or like a common phrase that's in your particular community in a book or in a blog post or something like that. And people who get it, but people who don't, like, they just read it as another sentence and they move on.
Yeah. I do that with a lot of his anecdotes and stuff all the time.
Right.
Like his little
but for the people who know who Doug is, they'll be like, oh, that's so cool that he's quoting Doug. Yeah. Like, and for other people, it's like, that was a great illustration. Yeah.
Like one of the most illustrative things that he uses is the difference between an ally and a co-belligerent.
Yeah.
I use this. People who listen to this podcast are very familiar. I say this all the time.
Right.
I ripped that straight from Doug. Mm-hmm. And those who know.
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah. And the little like echoes, like some people will pick up on the echoes, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's fun. And then other people just like are helped by it. And that's all that counts.
Yeah.
Right. Or there's a general spirit that people pick up on,
right?
Which is, and for the joke side of it, the general spirit of it is they're having fun. So like a meme of RFK Jr. holding a penguin's hand and walking toward a mountain. I don't have to know what that means. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
It's whimsy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, whimsical.
They're having a good time.
Yeah.
And it's not just, if RFK Jr. were just talking about they're poisoning our children, you know, like if that was all his whole thing, I didn't mean to make fun of his voice, but if they were like, if that's all that he was doing, then people would it'd be easy to dismiss him as just a crank.
Right.
Right. Because you think of the self-serious cranks on the internet who do talk about the exact same issues that he does, but the fact that he can joke around about it, the fact that he can like make fun of Trump eating McDonald's, like he's not self-serious about it. And the fact that he does actually enjoy that Trump eats like fillet of fish, like 4 fillet of fishes on an airplane. Yeah. Like they're friends.
Yeah.
And so we can actually we can be non-anxious as we save the country. That's attractive.
Very interesting. I think you've convinced me of your point of view.
Good Glad job. To bring you around. Welcome. Welcome.
I know a lot of the guys who, again, because we're in the business of staffing in DC. So the people that we're talking about that are making these memes, like, I know them in real life and actually in completely different times and political contexts. Like these would be the guys that you would want to have as writers on SNL.
Sure.
Like I have group texts with these guys and I can be like laughing to tears
Mm-hmm.
based on just text they send.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
So this is a very interesting way of thinking about it.
But like recognizing now, like if they're not in like, and again, not in this era, they would be on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
But like the fact that everything is so pitched right now, like they recognize that the things like they can't write Change Bank, this
Right.
silly sketch from the 90s. But you know what? We can like save the country and have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's even better.
Yeah. Our comedian in chief,
Okay.
President Donald Trump.
Yes.
What makes him so funny?
Oh,
Why is his form of speaking
yeah.
so hilarious?
Norm talked about this. So
Did
like
he really?
Norm's answer to this is the only correct answer. So
Okay.
he talked about it's simultaneously why he's so funny and why nobody can make fun of him very well. And when people make fun of him, it looks ridiculous. So huge explanatory power. So Trump is doing self-parody. He's always like himself plus 20%.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny. And therefore, if you try to parody, self-parody, you look like an idiot. You look like a guy who doesn't get the original joke.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you watch Seth Meyers, they'll play a clip of Trump telling a joke. People will laugh at the joke because they think that he's not joking. So like they make themselves look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But the entire like vibe of Trump is self-parody, but also I'm saving the country. Like
Yeah.
I actually am going to do this. And never letting a crack show is great. Like he's never a guy who like he very rarely says I'm just kidding. And so, but people who are in on the joke recognize he's playing around. He's having a good time. The people who aren't are like, he didn't say I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He didn't put a clown nose on when he said that. So how am I ever going to know?
He didn't turn the cue light on. Like,
Right.
please laugh.
Yeah. And so like there's a certain amount of like getting into it. Again, like Mystery Science Theater, if you show a person who doesn't know Mystery Science Theater, and they'll be like, like, do they think that it's funny that they have puppets? Like it's a kid's show. What am I watching?
Yeah.
But like you get into the world and you start laughing at everything.
Yeah.
That's Trump. It's like, there's kind of a little barrier of entry, but like when you start to get the character, then everything he says is funny.
Yeah. And on top of that, he is also frequently unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
So like what I always remember is the when he found out RBG died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I think
Wow.
we will remember,
Mhm.
and this will be
Again,
it's become a meme.
I can't
It's
hear
like,
Tiny
wow.
Dancer anymore without thinking of without laughing.
like and everybody has. I have the song that was playing. Like everybody knows exactly when in the song that
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
and the way he does the arms, like he's got his hands out like this, and he goes,
He's receiving the news.
yeah, wow, I didn't know that.
But like he's an entertainer.
Yeah,
He knows he's an entertainer, and a lot of politicians don't think they're entertainers.
Yeah.
But they are. So like Hakeem Jeffries doesn't think of himself as an entertainer, but because he's self-serious, we're laughing at him from the outside.
Right.
But he doesn't understand what his role is. His role is get people riled up and get people on his side.
Yeah.
But he doesn't understand that, and so he just looks like a clown.
The other one that's top of mind, I'm sorry, because you brought up Hakeem Jeffries. I just thought of this.
Mhm.
When Trump called Chuck Schumer a Palestinian. And he returns to this like once a year. He's like, Chuck Schumer, in parentheses, Palestinian. Just keeps going. Okay. We've been doing this long enough, and I've got to go on your show after this, but this is going to be my last question, or second to last question. Funniest Trump bit or comment of all time in your mind? The one that you always return to.
I mean, it's so hard to choose. There are so many that have like ascended the ranks of just not even being jokes anymore, but just being like cultural moments.
Like so true.
Yeah.
You know?
Like everybody uses his like mannerisms, his like patterns of speech that people don't even recognize came from him. They're just like part of the. I don't know.
So true. Many such cases. Like all of these.
Oh yeah.
Phrases. Yeah.
put me on the spot. It's I think maybe the one you mentioned actually.
Chuck Schumer being a Palestinian.
No, I mean the
the RBG.
The RBG thing.
Yeah.
I think like that moment, even if he wasn't intending it as like a humorous moment, it was like him being just as a character. He is funny. He's funny not just in terms of being a comedian, but as like a human being character. I don't know. He is a singular figure.
The other thing that's crazy about that video that I always remember whenever these conversations come up is he does that whole 30-second bit with the press, and then he walks away. And when he goes to Air Force One, because he's getting immediately on Air Force One after this,
right?
He does the crispest salute to the Marine standing at the bottom of the stairs that I've ever seen. Like, it is like perfect. My dad is a United States Marine. Like, I know the exact composition of a salute.
That's great.
And dude, it is like, it could be in a movie.
That's perfect.
It is like the perfect salute. And I sort of had this conception, like watching, I've seen this clip so many times where he's like, she's gone and we're back. Like, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
So anyway, you do, I mentioned this, at the very early stages of this podcast, you do this the Wade Show with Wade. Where can people keep up with you and all of your great comedy work, which everybody should definitely check out?
Well, thank you. I'm a Wade Stotts on Twitter, X, and canonpress.com. I do audiobook readings as well. So G.K. Chesterton's one of my heroes. I've been doing audio readings of his essays. He's a guy who also just like didn't take himself seriously, but was very funny and knew exactly what was going on and what was wrong with the world 100 years ago. So like I've been doing a lot of readings of his stuff. That's at canonpress.com. And also I do the Wadecast with Wade and I'll have Nick Solheim here just right after this. We'll be talking to him. My weekly videos are up on X, YouTube, and Canon Plus.
Great. Thanks so much for coming on the Moment of Truth podcast.
A genuine thrill. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to yet another fantastic episode of Moment of Truth. Thank you to Wade for giving us a little bit something different to talk about than usual. It's always good to have a little bit of levity. I would highly recommend that you go and check out his show, which you can find at Canon Press. It's called The Wade Show with Wade. He essentially does late night comedy. It's a conservative late night comedy show, which I always find to be really hilarious and engaging. It's one of the only things that I watch. I don't have a TV, so I don't watch a lot of stuff, but I do always watch those when they drop because Wade is a really funny guy. So thank you to Wade and to Canon Press for hosting us, making this episode happen. And thank you for tuning in to another fantastic episode of Moment of Truth. We will see you again next week. Moment of Truth is an American Moment podcast taped at the Conservative Partnership Campus Studios and is produced by Jake Mercier and Hunter Smith, with original graphics and title cards by Jared Cummings. Our intro song is A Minor Struggle by Ryan Serenich, and our website is AmericanMoment.org.